I was sitting yesterday at the fall gathering listening to our keynote speaker, who was wonderful. Reverend Dave Vita McAllister came down from Connecticut. And I had been thinking about the title of the sermon before she spoke. And the more I listened to her, the more I knew I needed to change the title. And so I'm madly texting Scott during this keynote address to say, hey, can you change the sermon title for me? And I think this is the right one. It's not about you. Not about me either, but it's not about us. This is a thing, this passage is about prayer. And it starts out, and Brian reads so beautifully. I hate to kind of read after him because I'm just like not as good. But it starts out, he also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves and were self-righteous. Some who trusted in themselves. What does that mean, they trusted in themselves? They don't trust in God, I guess, right? They trusted in themselves and were self-righteous. Weren't righteous. They were self-righteous. Do you know any self-righteous people? Doreen, I'm Doreen. Jolie, don't be like so cynical that I have to call you by name. Do we know any self-righteous people? Oh, but you have. Oh, but you have. Right, those people who are letting you know that you're not doing it right, only they know how to do it right. And they know the right way to God, and you obviously have taken a wrong turn somewhere, or several. And we don't like those people very much. So when I become self-righteous, just kind of stomp on me, I'll step down. And they regard others with contempt. Let me see. I don't think I see anybody in here that regards others with contempt. Can you imagine somebody who regards others with contempt? So Jesus wants to speak to these kinds of people. That's who this is targeted at. And he says, we were laughing at this one when the pastors met on Thursday. You know, 2 men went up to the temple to pray. It's like 2 Corinthians met in a bar. 2 men went up to the temple to pray. One a Pharisee. Now, we're not first century people, but the Jewish folks who were hearing this parable from Jesus, they didn't like Pharisees very much. Why didn't they like Pharisees very much? They were law followers. Well, it's not a bad thing to be a law follower. How many people are rule followers in here? How many rule followers? Be honest, okay, I am. Ask Mary. And she's, she's who she is. But it's not only that they were law followers. It's that they would kind of go around and let everybody know that they were following the law in a way that let you know you were just not measuring up. And that's why people didn't like them very much. So one was a Pharisee, disliked by the Jewish people because they were just kind of pompous and above everybody. And the other was a tax collector, also disliked by people. Why did people dislike the tax collectors? Because most of them cheated people. Most of them didn't collect. Jesus says, render to Caesar what's Caesar. Most of them didn't collect the honest tax. They collected a lot more than that. And so they were not respected or liked. And so we got these 2 kinds of people that people didn't like. I think what's really interesting is how they're portrayed in the parable. The Pharisee standing by himself. Standing by himself. Nobody was standing near him, standing by himself, was praying, God, I thank you that I am not like other people. Thieves, rogues, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. Right? Now, if you're God, you gotta listen, right? But are you liking what you're hearing? I don't think so. As I read this again and again this week, I got to this verse and I kept saying, God, I thank you that I am not like other people. Thieves, rogues, adulterers, or even this tax collector. And I have to say, a large part of me wondered, is this even a prayer? Is that really a prayer? Thank you that I'm not like mere humanity out there. I fast twice a week. I give 1/10 of all my income as prescribed by law. Really? Okay. And aren't we supposed to do that kind of stuff in private? Is that not something we're supposed to flaunt at other people? So why are we standing here saying this? Then in the next verse, verse 13, we read, but the tax collector, standing far off. You know, I was thinking about that last night. I was trying to picture what that looked like. The Pharisee is standing by himself, and the tax collector is standing far off. Is that the same thing or something different? Oh, I can hear the projector. You must not want to answer. You know, I wondered, is it not the same thing? They're both standing by themselves somewhere. And he would not even look to heaven. What is the suggestion in that? He would not even look to heaven when he prayed. Are we supposed to be looking to heaven when we pray? Are we supposed to be looking to heaven when we pray? Yeah. How many of us don't? You go to a gathering and somebody says, let us pray, and everybody goes, dunk. I'm the only one that goes, wow, what a beautiful wood ceiling. I'm so glad that fan works. Church we were in yesterday, gorgeous wood ceiling. I think we're supposed to look to God. I don't think we're supposed to look down at our toes. But it's kind of interesting. It's here. He wouldn't even look to heaven. And so I'm thinking, we're supposed to be looking to heaven. So I'm just going to throw that out there and let you all do what you want with it. Beating his breast and saying, be merciful to me, a sinner. What's the difference in the focus between the Pharisee's prayer and the tax collector's prayer? What's the focus on? Me. Not me. I'm so great. And I'm so pathetic. Really? One Bible commentator said, oh, you know what? God really liked the tax collector's prayer better. Well, I think in the first century that's probably true. But I'm thinking about 21st century now, and I'm thinking, what would God rather hear from me? Oh God, I'm so wonderful. Or, oh God, I'm so pathetic. Don't you think God would just kind of like twang your ears and go, you're not either? Yesterday, Reverend Day Vida McAllister, don't you love that name? I think this is a good name. She was so cool, had a bow tie on. Too bad Debbie Small's off with the kids at that doctor's office today. Just tried it out as a new look. She made us look at the person next to us and say, You are a magnificent creation of God. Well, let's see if we can do it. Find somebody near you, look them in the eye, and say, you are a magnificent creation of God. Okay. Now I want you to say it like you mean it. You are a magnificent creation of God. Now find somebody you didn't just look at, somebody across the room, catch their eye, and tell them the same thing. You are a magnificent creation of God. You are a magnificent creation of God. Now, how do y'all feel? Don't you feel good? Now, how would you feel if somebody said to you, you are pathetic, and I'm great? I mean, would it be the same feeling? No, it's not so good. It's not so good. So we take this first century text and we look at it as 21st century people, and we're like, So then we get to the 14th verse, and it says, the man went down to his home justified. Then there's all these sermons about justification. Are we justified by God? Are we justified by grace? Are we justified by good works? Are we justified? And I thought, oh gosh, I can put them to sleep in a heartbeat if I talk about justification. So I decided not to.
Good for you. Good for us.
What I think in the 21st century, as we look at this, it seems to me that Jesus wants us to understand that it's not a good thing to set ourselves apart and above somebody else. Have somebody be beneath us. I don't think that's what we're supposed to get in the 21st century. And I thought about it some more because, every time I come out of one of those UCC gatherings, they're always talking about the still speaking God. You know how those UCCers are. That would be us. What if in the 21st century, listening to our still speaking God, we hear something neither above nor below what's happening here, but something beyond these examples? What if in the 21st century, what in the first century was humility, we might render as honesty? Even in the theology of humility, you will hear writers talk about it as just that. God doesn't want us to browbeat ourselves and to beat ourselves up, just to be honest before God. I did a really fun thing today, and I loved it. I did something where I missed the mark, and I'm so sad that I think somebody got hurt by it, and it was my doing. Honesty. Not beating myself up. Owning what I've done, who I am, and asking God to just love me no matter what I've done and who I am. I think that's who we are in the 21st century. It's not about you. Prayer is not about you. Weren't we taught as kids that it was? But we're not kids anymore. And I don't think God's upset with us when we go to God and say, you know what, I'm a mess today. I'm just a mess. Although I do understand there's a difference between mess and hot mess. But that's not really putting myself down. It's just saying honestly to God, you know what, I'm just a mess. I'm just at 6s and 7s. I'm all just out of sorts. And I don't know why. Oh, we go to God and we go, you know what, I'm flying high today. But not because of me. Because of you. See, what Reverend Day said to us yesterday was something about the theme of the whole fall gathering, which was connections. Connections. Prayer is about connections. And prayer, first of all, if it's not about me and it's not about you, it's about God. You know, we go to God. So it's about God. So prayer, first of all, connects us to God. And if you listen to the prayer of the people today, or the prayers of the people that were in the book, all the prayers were about other people. They were all about other people. And so, in prayer, not only are we connected to God, but we're connected to each other and to all God's people. And we're connected to all of creation. Because we're given that to be stewards of. So it's really about connections. Prayer, our prayer. Friday night at the fall gathering, we had a concert. It was put on by a band from Virginia called The Steel Wheels. The is part of their name. Anybody ever heard of them? I haven't either. Bear and I enjoyed it. Tickets were $20 each. Somebody gave them to us. That was even better. I actually tried to get out of it by saying, oh, I didn't realize it was a sold-out concert and I didn't buy tickets. And the person said, here, here's 2 tickets. But I'm really glad that that happened. Just a bunch of good old boys. Good boys. Spiritual, faith-filled men. 4 of them. One who played the mandolin and steel guitar. One who played the banjo and guitar. One who played the bass, just close to a cello, right? Just bigger boy. And the violin, also known as the fiddle. And they decided they wanted to do a song where we could all participate, which I was just waiting for because you know how much I love to sing. And the song they chose was called The Race. And you can actually go good search it and find it and listen to it. And this is how that song goes. And I think it fits with the theme of the weekend and what we're talking about in prayer. It starts, I've got a hope that never fails me. I've got a song that I'm going to sing. Tempests turn and wheels are wailing. I've got a race that must be won. I've got a race that must be won. When the morning calls, but the flesh is weak, the day is kind and warms you with the sun. All around is trials and troubles. English teacher has a problem with that one. You got a race that must be won. You got a race that must be won. With a callous hand and a past that's weary, we carry on like the job is new. Jolene, we carry on like the job is new. Okay, this song's for you. Even when the world might call us foolish, we got a race that must be won. We got a race that must be won. On the restless sea of time, may our footsteps be light and faithful. We got a race that must be won. We got a race that must be won. Did you pay attention to the pronouns? It started with, I got a race that must be won. And then it went to, you got a race that must be won. And it ended with, we got a race that must be won. What it never says is, they got a race that must be won. And he made a point to tell us that. There's no they in the song. There's no those people. No. As the song progresses, it's like the stages of development, and one of them had a little boy who's turning 3. And he said, oh, I wrote this song for my son Milo. He's turning 3, and I want to share it with you. The name of the song is Milo. Everybody laughed. But they have all these, and he said, it's kind of like development. You know, first the child knows himself or herself, then knows there's other, and then gets the concept of we. But for us as spiritual beings, I think it's the same thing. As spiritual, faith-filled people, we get the I part first. That's what we're taught as kids. Then we get the you part, because we get into relationships where we love one another. And finally, we get the we part. Finally, we get the we part. It connects us to God. This prayer, whether it's sung or spoken or danced or some other way expressed. There's no one right way to pray. But however it's expressed, it connects us to God. It connects us to one another, and it connects us to creation. In the 19th century, Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote a lovely essay called The Oversoul. Anybody ever read it? It's boring as all get out. But that's its concept. But that's its concept. So I want to read the whole thing to you. It's 19 pages long, and I knew you'd be happy to hear it. But yesterday afternoon, our conference minister, Reverend John Vertigan, spoke to all of us. He spoke to those of us gathered, but he spoke so we would bring it back to the families we came from, the faith families we came from. There were a few times yesterday, as well as Friday at the board meeting, where one congregation's name was raised a couple of different times in a couple of different ways as an example of what we like about the United Church of Christ. The name of that congregation Joe may know because he's part of the larger UCC and serves on one of the committees for the conference. But perhaps some of you have heard of it. Faith Family, United Church of Christ. I have people come up and say to me, you need to meet Kathy Rook. She's the pastor at Faith Family. You need to call her if you have any problems or questions. I'm like, yeah, right. I said, you can call me. We can have coffee. But it kept coming up. It came up at the board meeting. And it came up yesterday in different ways. And I was just so proud to be the pastor of a church that our conference sees as one with a heart and a soul and hands that reach out to touch people as God wants us touched. And that's what prayer does. It doesn't divide and separate. It doesn't put me up here and you down there, or me down here and you out there and me over there and you over here. It doesn't do that. It connects us. It brings us together. It honors and reveres the magnificent creation each of us is, the hands of God. John spoke about the urgency of now and the importance of showing up and being there wherever there is. Sometimes our prayer as a congregation and community and faith family becomes a prayer of action, a prayer that is active rather than articulated or prayed in silence. One of the things we did yesterday was sign a quilt with all the faces of the persons who had perished at Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Everybody in the room who wanted to signed the quilt. It's considered a very sacred quilt, one to be revered. And so it was treated just that way. It's already been on the Today Show. And at the end of the closing service, anybody who wanted his or her picture taken in front of the quilt had the opportunity to do that. The United Church of Christ takes very seriously that we're connected. We take very seriously the scriptures that we share each week, and this one's telling us about prayer. The importance of showing up and being there wherever there is. That's a prayer we're called to as a community and a faith family. To show up and be there wherever there is. And you know what? People notice. And when you do that, not only are you the hearts and the hands of Christ, there's a ripple effect to that. And it goes out to the world. But here is a little church with a big heart that even though the week before they took up a collection for neighbors in need so no child would go to bed hungry, and that's still on the wall out there. And the following week, because the hurricane had hit Haiti so badly that people were dying because of cholera and they had no fresh water to drink, and we collected even more that week than the week before. And I've shared that. So I could shame my sisters and brothers into giving them. I shared that because I wanted your light to be seen. I wanted your generosity to be known. I wanted the love you are and that you breathe into the universe to be felt. And then I am so grateful to come home to you and be your pastor and pray with you this day and all days. Amen.